another episode of the Next Fix podcast where we talk about comeback stories. And these comeback stories often include battles with addiction and coming up against substance abuse and things like that, which is, it's becoming more and more clear that it's a problem in our world. And today we've got Clay Moffat, a true comeback story, a man who's been a part of the Navy. He is the author of The Trust Trap. And so we're going to hear all about it today. We're going to hear about how Clay hit the ground and then picked himself back up. And so, Clay, I want to say that I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being with myself and my audience. How are we living today, my friend?
Today's a good day.
It is a good day.
I had a good life, man. I can't complain about much, to be honest. I can't complain about anything if we're going to be honest. Like, today is a good day. It's a good day.
Nah, man, you're not getting away with that. I want to know, man. The train came off the tracks a few times. I did a little reading about you. And so, maybe you're not the type of guy that complains because there's no use in that shit, right? But we want to hear the story, brother. I want to know, like, what did it look like for yourself? Like, what were the struggles, maybe, with substances, and what did some of those situations look like for you?
Well, it depends, right? So the struggle with substances was more, I would never, and I still wouldn't label myself an alcoholic, a substance abuser, alcoholic, no. Like, there was plenty of times where I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I'd stop for like 6-7 months. I'm like, all right, I've got a handle on it. And then I'd be drinking and I'd be fine for like 6-7 months. And then I'd just be like, you know what? Like, yeah, let's just go party this one weekend and then catch out the bag and off we go again.
Right.
But it wasn't like I had this need that I was like, oh, if I don't drink today or if I don't take this today, then there's going to be a huge problem. It's never about that.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate, if you will, that I didn't go down the path where it was like became a necessity, became a habit, became the addiction. But abuse, yeah, that was like rife. It was absolutely a whole part of my life and my lifestyle, and was a part of my lifestyle from the age of 13.
Yeah.
So
it looked like there's some violence. There's some violence in there too, right? Like you got into some young man shit, right? Like some fisticuffs.
Yeah, there's a couple of arrests and some stupid B&E stuff. Like I got arrested in your lovely country for breaking and entering in Houston, of all places. Like, I don't mind saying this because I think it's quite accurate. I'm fortunate that I'm white, otherwise I'd be dead.
Yeah.
Like, just call a spade, right? Breaking into someone's house in Houston as a young white man. I'm lucky to be alive, let alone any other color skin.
That is the truth.
I was very fortunate.
Yeah, Texas is a place where they shoot people, man. That's a place they fucking shoot people, right? It's a thing. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So you're lucky.
As plastered as I was and as out of my mind as I was, it's way too much to drink, blackout drunk. For whatever reason, there was no maliciousness behind me breaking into someone else's house. I thought I was breaking into my friend's house to get out of the cold because it was sleeting in Houston, and I just come from Australian summer. So what's that, like 95 degrees to 32 degrees is a significant temperature difference. And so when I say it was cold, for me, that was like ice. Yeah. And I went out, I got drunk, and I had some guy pull a gun on me at the pub. So, like, I don't remember any of this. This is all from people that were there. They're like, yeah, man, you bumped into some guy at a pub. He got pissed off because, like, you spilled his beer, then it all kicked off. Then he pulled a gun on you, and then it went outside, and then you vanished, and no one could find you. And then 3 days later, I show up after being in jail for, like, 3 days, 72 hours. And they say, oh, you're alive. Well, this is good. Like, there's some stuff going to it, But yeah, so I broke into this lady's house, but I had the good sense that I just walked out, sat on the curb and waited for the cops. So I just sat there. So no running, no stupidity. And the cops were like, this is not really the behavior of a criminal. It's just the behavior of an idiot. And so they downgraded the charges from felony breaking and entering to criminal trespass and criminal mischief because I broke the door.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I found a really good lawyer, man, like a really, really good lawyer. And he said, look, he didn't tell me. He kept me in the dark. He called my mum, told my mum this is the plan, right? And we went back and forth for court a few times, and the charges ended up getting squashed and crushed and cost me a heck of a lot of money. But I'm still allowed to enter your lovely country.
Yeah.
and I don't have a criminal record, and I just super lucky and extremely grateful that things rolled that way. And you would think, right? You would think that would be a reason. You know what, Clay? You probably should stop drinking, man. Like, you just about ruined your life. Nope, that was not a reason at all. That was the reason for like a 3-month hiatus.
Uh-huh.
And then I just got back into old routines and old patterns and started partying again and going crazy.
Okay, so
So, yeah.
well, all right. So I mean, clearly that's not the rock bottom, right? And then you were very clear, like,
Well, it depends. It really
right.
depends.
Well, but
So my dad disowned me.
yeah, okay.
So that's pretty rock bottom.
Shit. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. It caused massive friction between me and my brother, like huge. And to the point where I think it was pushed by his now ex-wife. And I can't really prove it, but he was saying a lot of weird stuff, man, that he just wouldn't have said.
Right.
So I think
right.
she was in his ear. And I ended up not speaking to him at all for, I think it was about 9 months. And if I found out he was, like, when I got back to Australia after I finished whatever I was doing in the US, he would come over to my parents and I'd just get up and leave. Like, I just have no time for you. Just because of the attitude and everything and the way it spoke, I'm like, man, I just don't have time for this. Like, get out of here, whatever. So, like, it definitely destroyed that. I was very fortunate to keep my job. My boss at the time, like, I just flat out told him, like, this is what happened. I messed up. And his first response was, do you want me to get you out of the country? And I was like, well, that's probably not the smartest move considering I'm going to be facing court. And also I can't because I had to give him my passport. So, I mean, I could leave. I could go to Coyote to take me back across the other way, maybe, But then we're opening up a whole network of things that I didn't even want to get into. So I'm like,
yeah.
hold
on a second, real quick. So I got to be honest, man. I was kind of in a similar predicament, and I chose to run. And I'll tell you, you made the right decision, because I was at one point wanted in 3 states, and it was all because I didn't have the balls to stay and show up to court. I didn't have the balls. I didn't have the manhood in me at that point in my life to stand up for what I did. You clearly did. I mean, you chose not to run from the cops, knowing that they're on the way. You could have ran like a coward, but you didn't. You're like, all right, I'm going to do this. I made a mistake here, clearly. And you just like, you're taking it on. And I really commend that. And so you chose to stick it through, do the right thing. But man, I can't believe how bad it got from this. You're right. This is a pretty messed up situation.
Well, I mean, this is like the culmination, right? So at 13, my best mate at the time, his mum, found me on the beach, passed out after sculling I got to figure out, half a gallon of vodka. And then she had to drive me 2 hours to the local hospital where they pumped my stomach. And apparently for something minuscule, like 2 shots more, my blood alcohol content would have been that high that I would need a blood transfusion, and they didn't have my blood at all. So I was like on the verge of death.
Yeah.
When I was like 15, I stayed with a friend of mine, same school, different friend. Went to a party, stayed at his house, ended up getting hammered drunk, fell down this hill, went all through these rose bushes, got covered in cuts, passed out, fell asleep with my hand on his heater, so I burnt my hand, singed it. At 18, my first Christmas leave in the Navy, I flew back, went out with a buddy of mine. Apparently, I don't know, because I don't remember anything. Like, this destroyed my memory massively. I tried breaking up a fight, or I was in a fight, ended up getting thrown through a balcony railing, and fell 12 and a half feet headfirst on the concrete, still got the dent in my skull. Didn't want to shave my head, and only shaved my head, was it last year or the year before last? Because I didn't want to see the scar.
Right.
And so I shaved it last year. I'm like, whatever, it's fine now. I've dealt with it. Man, and that's not it, right? I got arrested for drink driving. I got arrested for fighting when I was drunk. It's like the trail is there, the destruction is there, the stupidity is like, it took me, was it 30 odd years to recognize maybe drinking's not the answer to your problems.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned early on, you said that you're not an alcoholic. And listen, I'm all about managing our own labels and stuff, but like on the surface from the outside looking in, and not as like a professional or anything, but you've got all the traits, brother. Like when you're allowing these things to happen and you're not making a hard turn or a hard change in your life, that's the hallmark of an alcoholic. But so okay, but yeah, you're up against some serious stuff, and now you've turned that into, from what I can tell, not just like a turnaround in your life and a new direction in your life. You've actually created some real systems, or real frameworks that can maybe make sense of all of that turmoil and strife, right? So I guess, how did you get your ass turned around? Like, how did that look?
That's hard to say. The journey to turn around didn't start as a journey to turn it around. It started, I didn't get into any self-development to develop myself. I got into self-development. I didn't realize I was getting into self-development to figure out how to make people do what they said they were going to do. So I got passed over promotion. People said, yep, you're next in line. Then they promote someone else. Oh, no, but like that was nepotism. We couldn't control that. You're definitely next in line. Someone else gets promoted. And like when you get washed over multiple times, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, something else is going on. And not only did that happen in my career in oil and gas on 2 different companies, it happened in my career in the Navy. And I was like, well, there's like a common denominator here. So I'm like, I need to figure out how to communicate better, because obviously I'm not communicating. So I need to learn how to influence people, how to persuade people, how to manipulate people. And that was what I started to do. I went down the path of, I'm going to figure out, like, I don't know. The way I think about it now is, I was obviously convinced that there's some magic phrase that when I learn this phrase and these tools, people are just going to open up and tell me the deepest, darkest secrets and then do exactly what I want to do. Obviously, that is one of the stupidest things you could imagine, because no such phrase exists. The turning point, I guess you could say, was number 1, my dad disowning me and never wanting to speak to me. That was a huge thing for me. It got to a point where I guess that was the wake up call, because I've got a lot of respect for my dad. I still do. And to have him do that or say that, what's the thing they say? I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
Shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's like the ultimate disappointment. Like, I never want to speak to you again.
Now, let me ask you, are you guys good now? Or is this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. God,
No,
man, my heart was like hurting. I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
And sorry if I went to the ending of the story, guys. I may have.
No, you're good. Yeah. No, you haven't ruined anything. So this whole dynamic started happening. Things went back and forth. But I think that was the turning point. And then I realized, okay, you can keep blaming everyone else if you want, but obviously you need to start looking in and figuring out what you can do to make people do these things. So the intention was moving in the right direction, because it started to shift towards the ownership of what I could do. So that was good, but how I was going about it was still like massively off kilter. It's like, okay, I'm going to control other people. So it's about taking ownership, right? Because now I'm learning how my communication affects other people. But it's not about, okay, maybe I need to become a better person. Maybe there's things that need to change with me. It's all about how I can manipulate and control others. And that's so.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up.
See on your face. It's like, yeah, it's massively fucked up. But, some people have to learn the hard way. And I was one of those people. So I studied. The book I'll tell you now, the guy has passed away. His name is Rintu Basu, and his book, it might be Basu, I don't know if I'm torturing his name. Black Book of Persuasion was his book. And he learned off a guy called Kenrick Cleveland. And he mentioned Kenrick Cleveland's name in his book. I'm like, let me go read that guy's stuff. So then I started buying his stuff. And then Kenrick Cleveland mentioned stuff about NLP and hypnosis. I'm like, okay, well, let me go down that path. And then the more I went down hypnosis, the more I started learning about a guy named Milton Erickson. He was a psychiatrist, and he got hypnosis recognized in the medical world as like a viable treatment plan and something that has substance and has weight, as opposed to being like this carny attraction kind of vibe.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, he's got this background, and this is what he studies, and this is what's important for him. So I'm like, okay, maybe this could be a way forward. Maybe I could do this. Maybe this is where we're going to go. And so that's what I did. I pushed that out, and I started moving there and started to figure out where I was going with that. neuroscience had different takes on it, and interesting takes on it. So I was okay, maybe it's the neuroscience side of things. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe that's where I need to push. And so I carried on pushing with neuroscience, and then went from there and went another way. It kind of just went like full circle, where everything just started complementing each other and everything started pushing in the right direction. And one thing led to another, and there I was, it's just, here we're at.
Now you're interpreting all of these, practitioners of really useful approaches, right? I believe wholeheartedly in neuroscience as a science and as an approach, and also the tools like NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and I've actually been just recently applying that in my own life, but it seems like from what I could tell, though, you developed this into your own like approach, right? So I guess, like, how are you applying it, and how are you actually spreading that, or at least communicating that to others in a useful way?
So when you spend like the first 27 years of your life in a state of victimhood that's perpetual, and it's unknown to you that you're in a state of victimhood, even though it's perpetual, you tend to have all these ideas about what something should be like and how it should work and how everything should function, how it shouldn't function, and what should be going, what shouldn't be going. And it became increasingly obvious that what was important for me was figuring out how I was doing what I was doing, and figuring out a way to move in a direction that's going to be beneficial, because that's really what it came down to. There's plenty of ways to get things across the board. There's plenty of ways to move things. There's plenty of ways to get things moving. And so I really just wanted to figure out, okay, what's going to happen here? What's going to get me moving? What's going to get me across? And so I had to start like analyzing, because I was working with people, like, what was I doing? What was I paying attention to? What's really moving the needle? And then when you throw that in with some of the mentors that I had and how they've worked with people, and I learned from them and I got great value from them, then it became a process where everything was moving in a much faster, much more dynamic way. And it's like, okay, this is where we're going. This is how we're moving. And so I started like tracking things. Okay, so it's not a state of this person's screwing me over. It's a state of this person is doing what's good for them. I'm doing what's good for me. Is what's good for me good for you? If it's beneficial for both of us, I can trust you're going to keep doing that thing because it's beneficial for you, and it's also beneficial for me. The moment it stops being beneficial for you is the moment that your response might change. And it's perfectly fine for it to change. There's nothing wrong for it if it does change. Like, it makes perfect sense for it to change, because we're human beings and we need to look after ourselves. And that's a perfectly natural thing. It's not a selfish thing. It's not a conceited thing. It's not an arrogant thing. Like, it's just human nature. And so I started tracking this, and I started paying attention. I was like, okay, well, how do I develop this into a model, and how do I make it useful? Because I really want to understand what was working for me. And then I started teaching it to some of my clients, and they resonated with it, and they got a lot of results from it. And then it kind of just went from there.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you talk about victimhood, I speak about the victim's equation. And it's the very common paradigm of, I was born into a poor family. I never finished school. And then, I got a decent job. And then, I lost my wife. She left me. And so there's this equation. It's usually like A plus B minus C times D equals who I am now. And a lot of times people are like, well, that's why I'm an alcoholic, and that's why I'm an addict, and that's why I am where I am. That's why my bank account looks like shit. It's like, because A plus B minus C times D, of course that makes sense. And so that's the victim's equation. And then I'm like, well, why don't we, if we don't focus on the left hand of the equal sign, focus on the right hand side. What do you want to equal? And then behave and work backwards from that result. And when you do that, first you ignore, maybe not ignore that, maybe that's not the right term, but you forego focusing on the past, and you focus on what needs to change in order to achieve that other side of the equal sign. And so, yeah, victimhood is like poison, man. It is like poison. And people they rush to just get a sip of that comfort of like, oh, well, this is why I am where I am. I'm going to believe that narrative, that the reason that I'm justified in being the way that I am. That's really what people are looking for. Now, I want to know about this book, brother. I want to know about the trust trap, right? And because you said something really cool in that it's a perception glitch. And I was like, shit, what does that mean? Because like, I don't know, it got me all excited, but like, you developed a book about this. I want to know, like, what is it about?
So it's a simple way of looking at things, in that there is the way I present it, and I am not a neuroscientist, but the way I present it is the simple fact of, if you take a wide lens and look at things across the board, then you can start to see certain things lining up. And those certain things lining up create this perfect storm where we fall into this trap. And the most obvious way to express this glitch is through trust, because I think trust is possibly the most fundamental piece of every single relationship you have had, will have, and currently have. Because without it, you don't really have the relationships that you would like to have, or that you're hoping to have. So how do I say that? Pretty simple. The glitch is this. Through our evolution, we have, and evolutionary psychology believes this, we have learnt to survive. Survival is what we are designed to do. We are not built to thrive. There is no mechanism inside us that says thrive. Our nervous system is built to survive. From the evolutionary standpoint, push it and really argue and say that we have had 24/7 access to food for 50 years. And I think that's pushing it, right? Like, there weren't really stores that were always open. You couldn't just go down and get this. But they had supermarkets. So if you want to go all the way back, let's go back 100 years and say, all right, for 100 years, we've pretty much had access to food. Okay? Versus the 200,000 years that Homo sapiens have been around. That is not enough time to re-educate the nervous system to say, hey, you don't need to pay attention to where you're getting your energy from, because we need to get this energy from. And if you look at it from the point of view where it comes to like high caloric foods used to trigger pathways in the brain that would activate memory. Because why? It would link us to survival. If we go and find a mango tree, remembering where that mango tree is super important, because it means we're probably going to live.
Right. And so you'll attach. Oh yeah, that's wow. There's a couple of really, really, really cool nuggets here, and that we aren't wired to thrive, and the amount of time that we were predominantly wired just to get by and seek that balance, and it's not even on our radar to push into a threshold of thriving. And so, but yeah, and then simultaneously, what you're mentioning about the caloric foods, yeah, like you there's so much going on when we eat something that is calorically rich, and that we don't think about it because of our narrow scope of vision, right? Because we only know our lifetime, and maybe the last 100 years are considered, but that's about it. And so, man, I really think that there's a lot of value there, that if you were, and that's, emotion is tied to our diet. Like, I'm a diabetic. I know when my sugar's low and I eat the same food, the condition of my body and my mind will change the way that I perceive the consumption of that food. It's this wild process. But yes, so our minds will put a stamp on that caloric food, and it's connected to memory.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say as much as it is these days, right? Because you can get high caloric food everywhere, right? You can go down the shops and get it. Historically, through the evolutionary pathway, that was super important. And why would that get committed to memory? Because we don't want to have to consciously think about how to get to that food every single time. So it creates like this mental shortcut. This mental shortcut is called a heuristic or a habit. And so we create lots of habits. And because the reason in creating habits is we conserve energy. And conserving energy means you survive. Because the less energy you have to spend, the more energy you have to survive. The more energy you have to reproduce, the more energy you have to procreate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it became a very powerful thing. So when you start to meet someone, you are paying attention to that person with all of your intention and attention, because you're evaluating. You need to evaluate, right? While there's no more saber-toothed tigers around, there are still other people around, and people can be threatening. Some people aren't threatening. Some people, through their past, perceive everyone as threats. So, I mean, there's a whole variation there. But what ends up happening is once this person gets put into the familiar box, your brain's like, check, shortcut, saved, they're familiar, we can turn off. And so because we turn off, we're not paying attention all the time, when they do something that goes against them being in the familiar or safe box, we're like, it's not them. They wouldn't do that. No, it's definitely someone else. Wouldn't do it to me. And so we start ignoring these warning signs. And the warning signs don't mean that they're a horrible piece of shit. They don't mean they're this disgusting person. It just means there's a deviation. There's a deviation from what we were expecting. That's it. Now, people throw all these stories on like, oh, it means this. No. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. It's nothing like that at all. So what ends up happening is we also get language thrown in there, especially in English, and we take the process, specifically with trust, which is actually the process of trusting someone, which is a continual assessment, right? It's continuing like, okay, I'm trusting. But we then freeze it into this blanket statement, say, this is a trustworthy person, which then gets this frozen representation inside our brain that we then start comparing to what we're getting in the moment. And typically speaking, most people hate being in cognitive dissonance. So if I say that Jimmy is a trustworthy person and Jimmy is not a trustworthy person, then that can say multiple things about me.
Right.
One,
so
I'm friends with untrustworthy people.
Right.
Two, I can't trust myself to make these judgments. So it's actually safer for me to go, no, that's not right. Jimmy wouldn't do that to me. He's not that kind of person.
Right. And so we fight for that, like fight against the cognitive dissonance, right? Like we fight to kind of, solidify our own opinions. Is that what, like you subconsciously you will, since you've made the decision that Jimmy is trustworthy, like you'll choose to ignore, maybe even a slew of reasons why he's not trustworthy. And I'll tell you that is super relevant for people dealing with addicts and alcoholics, especially enablers, right? Because, the mom who enables their son to get pissed drunk day in and day out is refusing to go against their own opinion that he's a good boy. And so they will just like hold on to that, right? They'll just like hold on to that image, that perception. And so, okay, so kind of back to, right, here's this circumstance. Jimmy's doing untrustworthy worthy things, but in our minds, right, you're saying that we will fight to continue that image for our own minds because we don't want to be wrong and we don't want to be somebody that's hanging around with an untrustworthy person. So there's a lot of things going on. And so is that what you consider to be the glitch? Is that?
So the glitch is that we label them in the first place at all, that we label people as trustworthy or untrustworthy or honest or dishonest or anything.
It's interesting.
The glitch is that we stop paying attention. The glitch is that we care more about this whole process of this freeze frame that the brain wants to conserve energy, so it does it automatically without you thinking about it, without you going, you know what, I feel like conserving energy today, so I'm just going to put this person in this box. It makes my life easier. That's the glitch.
Wow.
The glitch happens automatically without your awareness because of the brain's need to conserve energy. Simpler, it's easier, it's faster to just slap a heuristic general, this person's safe, than it is to continuously pay attention. And so the whole point of the trust trap is to give you the tools and the mechanisms to be able to analyze language and to be able to analyze nonverbal behavior so that when you start to see these nonverbal indications that things are wrong, that things are not working, that things are needing to be shifted, you pay attention to those instead of ignoring them. And you actually pay attention. So you're like, okay, you can put them in that box because you're going to put them in that box anyway. It's just going to happen. Now you've got the ammunition for your conscious mind to go, you know what? That was great and that is true. They were that way and that's awesome. And they're showing something different now. So let me pay attention to what's going on now as opposed to making a judgment on who they were 2 years ago and that being the representation.
Wow.
Because people change. Context change, incentives change, social needs change, human needs change. Like the only constant in life is change. That's it. Freezing this thing, right? Let's say we've been buddies for 10 years. and I'm still holding on to like the good times that we used to have when we used to go party and do all that kind of thing. The example, I give this in the book, man. So I was a victim in a very different way to the way you were talking about before. I had a great childhood. I wasn't molested, wasn't beaten, wasn't raped, wasn't kicked, wasn't, no emotional trauma, nothing like that. I say this because it's the only thing that psychologically, from all the study that I have done and research, that kind of makes sense, which is a very typical thing from kids around my age. And I'm not a kid anymore, but when I was a kid is what I mean, obviously, right? Sounds so weird. Having boomer parents, right, is the thing I was talking about. So the dad would always go work. But depending on the dad's profession, and my dad was a hotel manager, he was away 19 hours a day.
Yeah.
So I never saw him.
Right.
I didn't really see him till I was 14 or 15, and by then the rails were well off. And so there is some psychological literature that turns around and says, well, that can have a similar effect of neglect and all these other things. So we're clear to anyone that's thinking I'm not blaming my dad at all. My dad did nothing wrong. I have the utmost respect for him, and I appreciate all the work he did for me. All I am saying is that is the only thing that I have found that could kind of explain why my brain went off the rails as hard as it did. That's the only thing. And so it was interesting to try and track it down because there's no initial sensitizing event where I was kicked in the gutter and beaten and molested or whatever. That doesn't exist. So the victimhood I was talking about is I always managed to find someone else at fault. So it's not that I'm in this position because of this. That never actually became clear to me. I never even bothered looking at that. I didn't even know that the first 27, 28 years of my life, I was just walking around being a little bitch, blaming everyone else for my problems. And that's what I meant when I said victimhood. And that was a perpetual state where I was existing in, which sucks to admit. It really does. It's not fun to go, hey, yeah, that's what I was doing 27 years. But it was necessary.
Well, the thing is that victimhood doesn't have to be, you were accosted and kidnapped and a part of something. Victimhood can just be giving your power away to something else outside of you for your problems.
Yeah.
And so, I think that is misconstrued, and why people stay there is that you're just giving away your power by not taking the responsibility of whatever proportion that it is. Because say it's not entirely your fault that you got into a divorce and all these bad things happen to you, but there's some portion of that's you. There's some portion. And so whatever the hell that is, if it's 3%, 10, 15, 20, 50%, 80%, whatever portion
if it's 0.25%, you got to own it.
Yeah.
Right.
And then start from there. Yeah. No, exactly. And well, I want to know, like you initially started all this because you wanted to like manipulate your promotions. You're like, I'm getting screwed over.
No, I want to manipulate people. Let's just cut to the chase. Right. I wanted to manipulate people. Right. That's it.
So
that's it.
So you got to something better, but like, what would you call that these days? Like how are you approaching people in a more productive manner?
Well, it came from, I went and did a NLP training live. So I'd read NLP books, I read hypnosis books, and I just started going and testing on random people with it. Stupid, man. No training whatsoever. Read a book. I'm like, oh yeah, I could probably make this work. Off I go and start like testing out on random people. It worked, and I got pretty good pretty quickly, but I don't recommend doing that. So
I love it. I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I probably belonged in the Wild West because I was just such an idiot and a cowboy. But it is what it is, and you got to take it with what you get. So the whole process of everything that's been going on and moving forward and getting out the way is, simply put, a very different approach. And the different approach is this: when I started to understand that looking back across everything, there was a common denominator, and that common denominator was me. I was like, okay, so maybe this manipulation stuff is good, but maybe something else needs to shift. And so I started to just open up the perspective. And then going to this NLP training, I had some very big internal shifts. I can't tell you what they were because I don't know. But I know that emotionally, I felt different, right? It's intangible for anyone else. It was very tangible for me on the experiential level. to the point where I came back from that training and then I just started doing processes with people and started getting amazing results with them. And I couldn't quite figure out why the results had shifted so much until I started, I was going through, remember we used to have all those online forums back in the day, right?
Yeah, like chat rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And so I started like scouring like all these histories of things like that and like searching to the net. And it came up multiple times that people respond to the person. And so I started recognizing that the reason I was getting these results was because who I was had changed. That tied with the fact that it felt really, really good to help someone and see them change and then watch the benefits. Some people will never talk to you again after you change their life. And some people will message you 5 times a day, telling you every little update, which gets a bit intense, to be fair, but still appreciative because like they really care and they're showing it. Like they want you to see how much like it's changed. So there's both sides of things. But that actually started to become the driver. I'm like, okay, cool. So if this is what I can do, then I should definitely do this because it's rewarding. Like I actually enjoy it. I like showing up to work. I like coaching people. I like helping people. And so that became the driving mechanism.
Man, I've been implementing NLP for, I don't know, a couple of months now. And I think I wouldn't say that it's a rapid transformation, but I'm starting to see the synchronicities around me. I'm starting to see some serendipitous kind of circumstances that I'm like, is that just a coincidence, or did my subconscious kind of align that particular occurrence to happen? And so I'm starting to really believe in the power of it, right? The power of steering our subconscious mind intentionally. And man, I think it's super powerful stuff. So, well, let me ask you though, like, you've got the trust trap, and I think that is just a wild perception and can be so incredibly powerful if we realize that the glitch is in the label, the over blanketed assumption that anybody is any kind of a way, whether it's safe or not, right? Because it's not just a trust thing. It could be any kind of blanketed. It could be
good person, bad person, helpful person, unhelpful person, stupid person, smart person, whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone's capable of performing every single thing given the right context. Everyone's capable of being seen stupid. Everyone's capable of being smart. Everyone's capable of being compassionate. Well, maybe not everyone. Like sociopaths probably aren't capable of being compassionate, to be fair. But let's talk about like the general population here. Not everything. There's always going to be exceptions to every rule. So when I say every, keep that in mind. So in the generality, say like over 90% of the population would be able to experience being in a position where they feel like this kind of person. The trick is to not attach that label. And typically what I'll do with people and what I'll tell people do is every time something good happens in your life, make it permanent, make it pervasive, and make it personal. Meaning, this is me, this is how I am, this is what I do. It doesn't matter what I do, this is how I show up. So now you're making it a part of your identity. Not to come off in some obnoxious, arrogant kind of way. Typically speaking, the majority of people that I've met in my life have really horrible self-talk and less than ideal self-image and self-concepts. So doing this will be quite a positive thing. And on the flip side, when it comes to the negative thing, make it temporary, make it confined to a context, and make it external. So you tripped over when you're walking out the door, and the shopping bags like split and dropped everything. Instead of saying I'm a fool or I'm an idiot, it's like, oh, that sucks. This floor is extra slippery today. If it hadn't been raining, I'd probably be fine. Right? You make it about that specific situation, not about yourself. And that's actually quite a skill because most people flip it the other way.
Right. I can see that that is an incredibly useful skill set, as you had mentioned, because it truly is our approach and our perception of whatever the hell we're encountering I think Einstein said it. He was like, we have the most important decision that we'll ever make is whether or not we live in a benevolent or malicious universe. And so what's a very key word in that phrase is decision. We can decide on the shopping bag breaking apart and falling onto the ground.
Hold on a sec there. You're doing the label thing again.
Am I?
Because it's not about that you can decide. It's how are you deciding now?
Okay. So
because it's a process.
It changes.
Because you're always deciding. When are you not deciding?
Right.
There's never a point for your entire life that you will not be deciding.
Okay.
Because it's a process. So, for example, let's say someone makes a decision to get a divorce. So that means it's final, right? That's it. No. They're going to continue to keep deciding to get divorced.
Interesting.
Up until the point that they have actually gotten divorced, right? They're still continuing to decide it.
Yeah.
And then even once they're divorced, you see some people that want to get back together after they've been divorced because they're miserable without each other. They're miserable together, miserable without each other, and miserable together. I don't know. But they're still deciding, right? It's a relationship. And a relationship is a process of figuring out how do I want to be relating to this person.
Right. And now that's amazing because I'll tell you why. A lot of people achieve success in recovery by saying, they never say, I'm never going to drink again. They just say, well, I'm not drinking. I'm making the decision to not drink for the next hour. And then the next hour, I will also make the decision to not drink. And then tomorrow I will begin making the decision again in those hours to not drink. And so that is a very useful approach that a lot of people, and you caught me there. I that is a very grand label, but
it's not that I caught you.
Well,
it's just what we do.
Of course.
It's what we do. It's a natural default. And that's why I'm saying that's the glitch.
Yeah.
Right. You weren't trying to be, I'm going to give him an opportunity to catch me out. It's just a natural way that our language happens. Right. It's undeniable. Like I do it myself. I'm like, as much as I can, I'm trying to like implant as much good energy and thoughts and coaching into my kids as possible. And I still screw the pooch from time to time. You know, I was like, you've got to get this thing out. But there's this whole process that you're going through, and it's going to keep coming up because that's the way the brain defaults.
Yeah, man. I love the approach. So, tell us, like, what are you doing these days, or what do you got coming in the future? What kind of projects can we expect? Where do we find out more? How do people come and work with you? I mean, you're in Australia, so I don't know how you got this thing lined up.
No, I'm in Thailand, man.
You're in You did mention that earlier on, yeah.
Nah, you're good. You're good.
Thailand, huh?
So, yeah, in Phuket, living where every man wants to go retire. But then they come here and like, I don't want to retire here. You got to do what you got to do. Everywhere's got really good things about it, and everywhere's got some bad things about it. Just how it goes. No one's perfect. What's going on? So I'm currently at the moment updating the Trust Trap. So I'm rewriting it. Because I wrote it in 3 weeks, right? It was a mad rush to get it done because there was this very real visceral experience that I could go permanently blind. Like I'm blind in one eye.
That's right. Yeah.
And the other one was like starting to fade and disappear. So when they told me the only way out surgery, which was the same surgery that took the vision from this one, I was like, might as well write a book because otherwise I'm never going to get a chance. So I just went and wrote it, right? But there's a lot of stuff that I didn't flesh out as much as I'd like to. With regards to incentives, there's like a whole different dynamic to like get people ways to perceive and observe and start to look for incentives and start to read through language of incentives and start to read the body language of incentives so you can start to track and create the narrative. Say, okay, what could this person's incentive be? Is this incentive going to be beneficial for me or beneficial just for them? And you can start to like track things and pull things apart. So that's a huge section that was missing from the book that I didn't put in. The linguistic analysis is a section that's missing that I didn't really put in. Now, everyone lies at some point. I've lied before. I'll probably lie in the future, right? To say that you've never lied, I don't believe you if you tell me that. Lying's not necessarily the problem, right? Because people will lie. Figuring out why someone feels like they need to lie or what they're lying about, that's the interesting part, right? And that's not so you can persuade them, manipulate them, but it reveals things about the character, so it's important. So yeah, the Trust Trap is getting edited and updated. That's like the big thing at the moment. That's pretty much it. I run a small, very tight-knit community. There's only 20 people ever in. I don't want a massive thing. I'm very happy with my small, tight-knit community.
I love it.
Yeah,
man.
that's online. And we run some events every now and again, but not too often, like 2-3 times a year, if at all. Last year I didn't run anything, year before I didn't. So it's really like if I'm feeling the mood,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, dude,
That's pretty much it.
you're my hero, because doing things on your own terms and doing it when you feel convicted to help people and obviously feed off of that energy, at your convenience, right? Because you've got obviously your priorities in line. You've got your kids. You've got you're living in Thailand. Honestly, I mean, that's like I said, you're my hero. But what do you have, a website or something? Where could people like reach out? Is there like
I do have a website. It doesn't work at the moment. It's getting rebuilt.
Right.
The best website, if you do want to connect with me, is trusttrapbook.com.
Yeah.
They've got like a, contact page or contact section. You click that, you can get in touch with me there. That's probably the best way.
Yeah.
That or X, because I am on X. Out of all the other platforms, I'm on X probably the most, and that is at Moffat Clay, MOFFAT.
Oh, I'm going to find the resources, brother. I'm going to put them out there. People are coming for you, brother.
But what I'll do is I will go ahead and I'll build you a page for all your listeners to go to, and I will send you the link so they can just
Awesome.
go click that and can have access to any of the processes we've spoken about tonight.
Yeah.
And they can access and download.
Hell yeah, man. That's what the people want. So you got to give the people what they want. Now I'll have that all lined up in the show notes. Clay, listen, man, I really appreciate your approach to things, man. Your pursuit and trying to just be better yourself and also make other people better too, man. I think it's a noble pursuit, and that's what it's all about, man. It's all about the journey. And so I truly appreciate your time, my friend. This has been another episode of The Next Fix, guys.